Hello, reporter room investigators. Come on in. Come on in. We have breaking news in the Bryan Kohberger case. I apologize, I'm not on camera, but we have text messages and the 911 call has been released. So we're going to go through those together. Come on in. We have breaking news. I told you guys this was going to be crazy over the next few weeks. I hope you guys hit your notification bells and are able to see this live, unplanned live stream.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
So we have breaking news in the Bryan Kohberger case. We have information about the surviving roommates, that's Dylan and Bethany, and the text messages. So let's get right. And let me just give people a chance to come in. I do know that we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the transcripts for the 911 call. And then we're going to talk about the new Amazon shopping list information and the most recent motion by Ann Taylor. So come on in, guys. We have a lot of stuff to get through. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and make sure you hit the notification bell. Okay, so let's get right into this. So we have text messages from Dylan and Bethany. We finally got to hear what they had to say. This judge from Ada County has been a lot more lenient about letting information come forward. And so this has been released with the roommates' initials. So here is, this is the text messages between Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk. Now, these were exchanged between 4/22 and 4/24, as well as text DMs Dylan Mortensen sent to some of the victims before dawn and again at 10:20 a.m. We're going to go through these first, and then we're going to go through the 911 call together. So prior to the text, Dylan tried to call Bethany Funk and 3 of the victims. So Dylan tried to call Bethany, and she tried to call Kaylee, Xana, and Maddie, but no one answered her calls. Okay, so this is what she writes in her text to Bethany Funk. No one is answering. I'm really, and she spells really wrong. Remember, she had been drinking. I'm really confused. So here's the excerpt from the moments after the slaying. So this is right after Ethan, Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana were done away with. Okay. So this is from Dylan and Bethany. So this is Dylan to Bethany. No one is answering. Dylan to Bethany Funk. I'm really confused, RN. Again, remember, she's been drinking. Dylan to Kaylee. Kaylee? What's going on? So she first typed in Kaylee's name, and then right after that, she types, what's going on? I just want to make sure we're all looking at the same thing. Okay, good, we are. Okay, then next after that, she says this is Bethany Funk to Dylan. Yeah, dude, WTF. So that's Bethany to Dylan. And then Bethany to Dylan says, Xana was wearing all black. So obviously they're talking about the, in my opinion, the masked man that she saw. She said Xana was wearing all black, and Dylan says to Bethany, I'm freaking out. Okay, RN is right now. So the first one is, I'm really confused right now. So then she says, Dylan says to Bethany, I'm freaking out right now. And then Dylan to Bethany, no, it's like a ski mask almost. So obviously this did alarm Dylan. And it tells us her state of mind at the time. And so this, this could be, a problem a little bit for Dylan, in my opinion. Let me know what you think. Bethany Funk says to Dylan, STFU, shut the F up. And then Bethany to Dylan, actually. Dylan to Bethany, so she tells her STFU, actually. And then Dylan says to Bethany, like he had something over his head and a little endy mouth. Now, she had been drinking. She tells us she's been drinking. She was underage. And I'm wondering if this is the reason why she didn't call police that night. Was it because she was afraid? Because she was underage. She was the youngest roommate. She was only 19. And she told law enforcement during her 3 interviews that she had been drinking. Dylan says to Bethany, I'm not kidding. Oh, am so freaked out. So obviously, seeing this masked man did not have the effect on her that what we had maybe thought. We thought maybe because it was, recently after the pandemic, because there were single young females, that maybe this did not disturb Dylan. But I also think the text messages prove that Dylan and Bethany had nothing to do with this. Okay. She would not have been texting about this right after being completely freaked out if she had something to do with this. So I really do wish that the prosecution had been allowed. Now, remember, there was a gag order that was put in place by Ann Taylor and the defense team. And I'm so glad that the judge lifted it, because I've been saying for over a year that the roommates deserved the benefit of the doubt, that they were, hadn't done anything. Their biggest crime was just, not calling law enforcement fast enough. Let's continue on. Dylan says to Bethany, she's saying, BF, I'm not kidding. I'm so freaked out. Bethany says to Dylan, so am I. Dylan says to Bethany, my phone's going to die. And then something's redacted here. And then Bethany says to Dylan, come to my room. Bethany says to Dylan, run. Bethany says to Dylan, down here. So clearly, Bethany's alarmed, Dylan's alarmed. And it's just unfortunate that nobody called law enforcement right away, because maybe Bryan Kohberger, if he is the perpetrator, he is innocent until proven guilty, but the perpetrator could have maybe been caught right then and there, because this all happened between 4/22 and 4/24/27. Okay, so let's continue on. Dylan appeared to reference the intruder she later told police she encountered when peering out of her bedroom door. She referenced something like a ski mask, almost. Okay, so it was a ski mask. We were wondering what the mask looked like, if it was like a mask that somebody wore during the pandemic, or if this was something more. So let's continue on together, guys. Okay, so then this is from the morning after. Okay, so this is at 10:23 in the morning. Dylan starts messaging Kaylee, please answer. Dylan messages Maddie, are you up? So to me, this tells me that she was worried, that she wanted to talk to them about, what she had seen, but that she didn't think somebody had come in and done away with all her roommates. That's, she thought it was creepy that there was a guy in the house, but she didn't have the alarm to the point where she and Bethany were creeped out, and Bethany saw her run and come to her room, which she locked her door, which might have been the smartest thing to do. Had she run, Dylan might not still be with us. It just, it depends where the perpetrator was at that moment. And then she texts again to Kaylee, are you up? So clearly she doesn't think someone has done away with her roommates, in my opinion. So, and then we know, I just went through that Bethany had urged her to run. And now, according to other court filings released this week, Dylan spent the night in Bethany's room, and an unnamed person called 911. Okay, so maybe Dylan did run. Because listen to this, you guys, this is new. According to other court filings released this week, Dylan Mortensen spent the night in Bethany Funk's room, and an unnamed person called 911 from Bethany Funk's room around noon the next day. Now, again, they didn't think somebody had done away with their roommates, but seeing an unknown man in the house scared Dylan to the point where she didn't want to sleep in her room alone. So at some point, she did make a run for it and go to Bethany's room. Now, why they didn't call law enforcement, they will have a chance to tell us when they get on the stand. So we know that Dylan was texting Kaylee and Maddie, please answer, are you up? And then she calls her dad around 11:40 a.m. Now, an unnamed person called 911 from Bethany's phone at noon the next day. So we don't know who this unnamed person is yet. We'll have to probably wait till the trial. So let's go through the timeline, and then we're going to go through, the 911 call. Let's just keep going, guys. If you just got here, you might want to back it up because I just went through the text messages. I'll go through them one more time, but let's go through the timeline. Then we're going to go through the 911 call. Then I'll go back through the text messages in case you missed it. Okay. Timeline of November 13th of 2022, 4 a.m., the suspect arrived at the house. Between 4 and 4:17, that's what time Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana were done away with. 4:19, roommate, that's going to be Dylan, calls all three victims. So she calls Maddie, Kaylee, and Xana. None of them pick up the phone. 4:22 to 4:24, Bethany and Dylan are texting each other from inside the house. And 4:27, Dylan calls the victims again. No one answers. 4:32, Dylan texts Kaylee, please answer. 10:23, Dylan texts the victims. No one answers. 11:39, Dylan calls her father. At noon, a 911 call is placed from the roommate's phone. Now, I've told you what I've heard from my sourcing, which is that Ethan's friends came over to the house and knocked on the door, and looking for Ethan, and that's how the crime scene was found, and that's why someone else placed the 911 call and not the roommates. Now, again, this could have, I wish this had been released. This would have saved Dylan and Bethany from being dragged on social media for over a year and a half, almost 2 years. I've seen, because of this gap and because we didn't know, people were able to attribute anything to the roommates. But I think the text messages prove that they had no idea. They thought it was creepy that there was a man in the house, enough for Dylan, who was only 19 years old, was scared, but didn't think that whoever had done this had done away with all their roommates. Why didn't they call 911 sooner? I believe it's because, if I had to take a guess, I would say that Dylan was drinking. She wasn't thinking as clearly as she should have been. And Bethany had been out drinking. They had all been out drinking, including the people who were done away with: Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Maddie. So now the prosecutors are asking the court to allow them to introduce these text messages as evidence. And I think the judge will allow it. Then we're going to go through the phone next. Okay, so this is what prosecutors are alleging so far, and then we're going to get into the 911 call. Prosecutors allege that the police found a K-bar knife sheath under Maddie's Mogan. It was underneath and to the side of Maddie, that had DNA that led to the suspect, Bryan Kohberger. And he was studying criminology nearby. So separately, the court also released a transcript of a frantic 911 call, and we're going to go through that next. Reveals multiple callers spoke with the dispatcher trying to explain they had found Xana unresponsive and someone had seen an intruder the night before. So Xana we didn't know if they had found Ethan or Xana first. Now we know it was Xana, and that someone had seen an intruder the night before. So who made the 911 call? We don't know exactly who made the 911 call, but we're going to go through it. Let's see if it gives us some clues. Additional filings that were made public include a list of records that prosecutors plan to introduce as evidence, and another defense motion seeking to have capital punishment removed as a potential sentence if there is a conviction, this time arguing that the prosecutors failed to meet their discovery deadlines. I don't think, Ann Taylor's trying everything. I don't think that the judge is going to allow the capital punishment, because Ann Taylor's saying now that the prosecutors failed to meet their discovery deadlines. I mean, we know there was 2 terabytes of information to go through. So striking the DP is the only remedy that begins to adequately address the prejudice to Mr. Kohberger. This is according to Ann Taylor. Even with a quote hot documents list and detailed expert disclosures, the minimum necessary for this case to proceed, counsel is at the massive disadvantage given the limited resources as compared to the state and the fact that only 5 months remain before the trial. Yeah, but there's a 5 months before the trial. I mean, the judge could say, I'll give you a couple more weeks, maybe. I don't know. The prosecutor's evidence ranges from Kohberger's banking and shopping records to surveillance footage on the night of the crimes. Prosecutors also plan to introduce the National Weather Service report. So this is going to poke holes in Bryan Kohberger's alibi that he was out stargazing that night. Because as I shared with you in a prior live stream, it was foggy that night. Foggy and cloggy. It was cloudy and foggy. Sorry, I'm not on camera. I was in my pajamas, literally about to go to bed when I realized we had a document dump. Okay, let me go to the next thing. If you're just joining me, let me go through the text messages really quick, then we're going to get into the 911 call. Let me grab this. Hang on one second. Sorry, this is breaking news, so I'm literally doing this on the fly. Okay, here's the 911 transcripts. Let's do that, and then we will get into, I'll go back over the thing. Let's get through all the breaking news together. Okay, let me see if you guys are looking at the same thing. Yep, okay, we're all on the same page here. I'll go through the transcripts again of the text messages after we look at the 911 call. And then we're going to talk about another new motion that Ann Taylor filed today as well. Okay, so let's see. So we talked about the text messages. Now the prosecution is arguing that the text messages are not hearsay and that they help establish the timeline of events, and that's why they want them to come in. I'm looking for where is the 911 transcript? It said that it was here and I don't see it. Okay, here we go. In another document, so this is what we know. This is updates on the 911 call. Okay, in another document, the state is seeking to admit the recording and transcript of the 911 call that first alerted authorities to the situation after Xana was found unresponsive. The state argues that the call also falls under the exception hearsay rule and will provide the jury with an important understanding of the timeline and immediate reactions and emotions of the witnesses. Now, John Judge, who was overseeing the trial, he's the one that put the gag order in place at the behest of Ann Taylor. This is before the trial was moved to Ada County, has previously ruled that the 911 call was relevant because it helped show, quote, why law enforcement was sent to 1122 King Road on November 13th, as opposed to just EMS when the call was for an unconscious individual. And as I shared with you during the last live stream, that the reason that it was reported as an unconscious individual is because that was the policy of the 911 company at that time. They were short-staffed, and if they did not understand what was happening, then their fallback was to say there was an unconscious individual. That was their standard of what they said. All right, so let's go through this. Hold on one second. Sorry, guys, we're doing this, on the fly. So I'm like literally figuring this out with you. Normally I, prep things in advance, but this is not possible tonight. I am trying to see if somebody actually, they're all saying they have the 911 transcript, but when I'm going in and trying to read it, All I'm getting are the text messages, and they're just talking about the 911 transcript. I don't know if they've actually released it to us. Okay, so I may have to change my thumbnail on that one. Sorry about that. Let me just see. Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like we have a dump, and the dump is that they're talking about the transcript, not that they've actually released it. So, okay, let's go through what we do know, what we do have, and then I'll continue to go update. Let's go through this. Come on in, you guys. Okay, so this is what we know. This is the transcript of the call if you're just joining me. And then we're going to talk about Ann Taylor's latest motion regarding the Amazon searches. Remember, I told you guys I thought that knife was purchased in the spring. That's what my understanding of it was from various sources. And that BK, that the reason that they went back in with that second Amazon search was because I believe that's where the knife was. We'll see, but we'll go through that next. We're going to go through her motion on that next. But let's go through this. For those of you that are joining me late, we have breaking news in the case. And please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It's going to be like this all the way up till the trial. Filings. Sorry if I sound frantic. I was ready to go to bed and I got an alert on my phone. Okay, so the filings reveal text messages that Dylan Mortensen and Bethany exchanged between 4/22 and 4/24, as well as texts that Dylan sent to the three victims before dawn. And I'll give you the exact time of those. And again, around 10:20 a.m. Prior to the text, Dylan did try to call Bethany Funk and Kaylee, Xana, and Maddie. She tried to call all of them, and none of those calls were answered. Please remember when you're reading this that Dylan had been drinking that night. She was underage. She was 19. So here we go. Let's go. Dylan starts texting to Bethany, according to the filing. I'm really confused, RN, which is right now. So she says, no one is answering. This is Dylan to Bethany. I'm really, and really spelled wrong. Again, she was drinking, confused right now. Remember, she had just seen a masked man in the house. Dylan texts then to Kaylee. Kaylee, she sends a second text. What's going on? Of course, we know Kaylee does not respond. Bethany responds to Dylan. Yeah, dude, WFT, what the F? Bethany says to Dylan, Xana was wearing all black. So Dylan is trying to, obviously there's some phone call that we do not know, don't have the transcripts for, because, law enforcement would be able to get text messages. They won't be able to get recordings of phone calls that happened after the crime was reported. So we'll have to go with what Dylan and Bethany, said. But obviously there was a little phone call in there because Dylan's telling Bethany that Xana was wearing all black. So she's trying to calm Dylan down a little bit. And Dylan is not having it. She says, I'm freaking out right now. She says RN right now. Dylan says to Bethany, no, it's like a ski mask almost. So you can see Bethany's in disbelief here on these text messages, because she's trying to calm Dylan down, telling her that Xana was wearing all black. And Dylan's just, not having it. She's like, no, it's like a ski mask almost. Bethany says to Dylan, shut the front door, but it's got the U there. Bethany says to Dylan, actually. And then Dylan says to Bethany back, like he had something. I think this is supposed to be something. Again, she had been drinking. Okay. Something over his forehead. So I think she's trying to say like he had something over his head is what I think she was trying to say. And little Andy. And I think this was supposed to be opening in the mouth. Something, but obviously something over his head and a little opening for the mouth. So she really did only see eyes and bushy eyebrows. Dylan says to Bethany, I'm not kidding. Oh, am so freaked out. Bethany responds to Dylan, so am I. You guys, I'm getting goosebumps reading this. Just knowing. Now remember, they're not typing this. They're freaked out that there's a masked man in the house, but they don't they don't realize that somebody's come in and done away with all their roommates. These are young girls. Dylan is 19 years old. But this, the prosecution wants to let this in because it establishes the time frame. Bethany answers Dylan, so am I. So Dylan's telling Bethany she's freaked out. Bethany's telling her, so am I. So Dylan says to Bethany, my phone is going to die. And we don't know what this says. It's redacted. My phone is going to die. Bethany tells Dylan, come to my room. Bethany tells Dylan, run. Bethany tells Dylan, down here. So apparently Dylan did make a run for it and go to Bethany's room. So I'm wondering, remember we heard the judge say that Bethany saw someone at the patio doors dropping stuff in the paper bag. And we got the report from the Mirror about Bethany seeing a man who didn't have anything on, and that, was, so I'm wondering if Bethany crept up the stairs at some point in these text messages and that, and tells her to run. So then we have Dylan texting Kaylee. This just breaks my heart. Dylan appears to reference the intruder she later told police she encountered when peering out her door. She referenced something like a ski mask almost. So this is, Dylan with the bushy eyebrows, and Ann Taylor doesn't want them to talk about the bushy eyebrows, you guys. So that's pretty shocking, just considering. Okay, so the next morning, Dylan sends the following messages starting at 10:23 in the morning. So obviously, she and Bethany fell asleep. She went into Bethany's room. She crawled in bed with Bethany, and they fell asleep. But Dylan texts Kaylee, please answer. Dylan texts Maddie. So clearly, Dylan must have been trying to call Kaylee and Maddie, and they weren't answering. So she texts Kaylee, please answer. She texts Maddie, are you up? She texts Kaylee, are you up? So then at 10:23, that's when she's texting them. And then around 11:40, when she doesn't hear anything back, Dylan obviously doesn't know what to do. So she calls her father. She calls her dad. Remember, she's only 19 years old. She obviously isn't sure what to do. So going through the timeline, I think is really helpful, because seeing when these roommates were texting each other is right here. Right, like 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 5 minutes after these victims, after the perpetrator has finished what he's doing, Bethany and Dylan are texting each other. They are calling the victims. No one's answering. They're calling the victims. They're calling Kaylee. No one's answering. They're texting in the morning. No one's answering. And that's when Dylan calls her dad. Now at noon, and this, my understanding was that sorry if I sound, I'm going to try to calm down. I'm going to take it down a notch. My understanding from listening to everything that I know is that Ethan's friend stopped by, but maybe that did happen. And maybe that accounts, because remember, people said that people arrived and the roommates had called people to come over and clean up. That's just not true. That is not what happened. And I think that these text messages do support that. Remember that in the case of Travis Alexander, Jodi Arias did away with Travis Alexander, and his roommates didn't call for days. But, we do know. So Dylan calls her dad. Now at noon, there's a 911 call placed from the roommate's phone. Now my understanding is that Ethan's friend stopped by. It could also be that Bethany and Dylan, at the direction or the behest of Dylan's dad, went upstairs to go see. Obviously, they were scared and locked in their room and fell asleep for a while. Again, they had been out drinking, unfortunately, because maybe they could have caught the perpetrator right then and there. So we're going to talk about the K-bar knife and the new motion by Ann Taylor. She doesn't want the Amazon searches in. We're going to talk about that next. But separately, the court also released a transcript of the frantic 911 call that reveals. So this is what we know about the 911 call. Multiple callers spoke with the dispatcher trying to explain that they had found Xana unresponsive. And someone had seen an intruder that night. And remember, when the 911, because they were short staffed, their go-to, if they were talking to multiple callers or people sounded hysterical, their go-to was that someone was unconscious. So they also reported to 911 that someone had seen an intruder that night. So we do have some information on the 911 call. Additional filings made public on Thursday include a list of records that prosecutors plan to introduce as evidence in another defense motion seeking to have capital punishment removed. So Ann Taylor is still trying to have capital punishment taken off the table. This time, now she's arguing that the prosecutors didn't make their discovery deadlines. I mean, I don't think that's going to go anywhere. But let me just see if I can get my hands on the 911 transcript while we're live here. I'm trying to get this transcript. I just seen if it's available. I'm seeing text messages. Let me go into, trying to think of where else I could go. We're going to go through Ann Taylor's Amazon motion next. And we're going to go, but let's go through the Amazon. Okay, let's go through the Amazon next. Okay, so lots of big news. Okay. Bryan Kohberger is asking the judge in Ada County to exclude, make sure we're all looking at the same thing and that I'm not blocking your view. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, so let's keep going. And let me see. And we're going to talk about the K-bar knife, because now we're finding out that they don't want the K-bar knife to be let in either. Okay, so this is the Amazon. Just want to make sure I'm not blocking it. I'm not. Okay. Then we're going to go through some more. Okay, so Bryan Kohberger, that's Ann Taylor, is asking the judge in the case to exclude evidence of his Amazon purchase history. So remember, if it's good for Bryan Kohberger, Ann Taylor and the defense team want to let it in. If it's bad for Bryan Kohberger, they're going to file motions to suppress. So they want to exclude evidence of his Amazon purchase history and other activity on the shopping site of his upcoming trial in the crimes. Defense attorney, this is from Alyssa Massoth, argued that no Amazon evidence, including quote click activity on the app, should be introduced at trial, in part because the term is vague and because prosecutors have allegedly failed to define it or describe the nature of expert testimony prosecutors want to introduce. Quote, the defense asserts that with the limited disclosures made by the state, a lack of raw data, lack of complete data, lack of disclosures in expert opinion, lack of explanation of Amazon click activity or any analysis related to, amounts to cherry-picked limited data that does not show a full picture compared to warrants that requested extensive data. So, in my opinion, they're just throwing everything at the wall at this point. If this Amazon search was helping Bryan Kohberger, they would let it in. And we'll go through the motion together, but let's go through this first. Okay, so Massoth continues. This is one of the attorneys on Bryan Kohberger's defense team. The state's refining of all the Amazon history and Amazon click activity is out of context, incomplete, and unfairly prejudicial, thus making it admissible, she continues. Let me know what you think the judge is going to decide on this. Massoth also argued that the Amazon's AI algorithm shapes user behavior. So the argument is that Amazon's algorithm made Bryan Kohberger make the searches that he made. It shapes users' behavior. The algorithm made me do it, is the defense. By serving up products it predicts shoppers would be interested in along paid advertisements. So obviously, the reporting that I had that he had purchased the knife in the spring and that we thought it was Amazon is probably correct. We'll have to wait for the trial to know, but it certainly appears that way. Let me know what you think. Do you think that what I reported out to you guys about the Amazon search that he had purchased the K-bar knife, that they did have that he had done searches for it, and that he had purchased it in the spring? Put a yes in the chat if you agree. Put a no if you think you don't agree. In 2022, Amazon's AI system did not passively reflect user searches, but actively guided purchasing behavior based on predictive models. This means that a user's browsing and purchase history may not necessarily reflect deliberate intent, but could have been shaped by Amazon's algorithm. So the algorithm made me do it is the defense. So they also are claiming that Amazon's 30-year-old account, that the 30-year-old, now remember Bryan Kohberger was 28 at the time, that Amazon account could have been shared with other household members, further muddying the shopping list. So now his family members, his sisters and his mother and father. Now I don't think his sisters were living at home during, at this time. And Bryan was living, in Pullman, Washington, but, they're going to now try to pin it on the parents. Previous court release documents showed that police had tried to link BK to the purchase of the K-bar knife after finding a sheath underneath the body of Madison Mogen. The sheath allegedly had DNA on its snap, and it ultimately led investigators to Bryan Kohberger. So the argument is the algorithm made me do it. We know from Dateline NBC's reporting in 2023 that BK purchased a K-bar knife over Amazon in 2022 before moving to Pullman, Washington to attend Washington State University. And so I guess he was at home with his parents at this time, according to Dateline. An Amazon search on Thursday showed similar knives are both popular and readily available on the site. Now, we have search warrants that show that police did recover knives after BK's arrest, but none have been publicly identified as the knife that was used in these crimes. Bryan Kohberger is innocent till proven guilty. Let me pull up the next thing to go through, which is Ann Taylor's motion. And then I will see, I will look for you guys. Let me grab that next. And then I will look and see about the 911 transcripts. Let me move myself out of the way. I'm so sorry I'm not on camera. I was going to bed when I got an alert about this document dump. Okay, so this is motion in limine excluding. So remember, if it's good for Bryan Kohberger, the defense wants it in. If it's bad for Bryan Kohberger, the defense wants it out. This is literally the motion. I just wanted to show you the receipts on this. So this is order in limine. We don't know what the judge is going to decide on this, but I suspect, let me know what you think. I suspect that they are going to allow this search to come in. I cannot imagine the judge, Ann Taylor can argue that his parents made the search for a K-bar knife on Amazon, but I cannot imagine that the algorithm made me do it is going to hold. So order in limine excluding any Amazon evidence, purchase history. So this probably also includes purchase receipts, in my opinion, and Amazon click activity evidenced by Mr. Kohberger. More specifically, the defense asserts that with the limited disclosures made by the state, lack of raw data, lack of complete data, lack of explanation of Amazon click activity or any analysis related to amounts of cherry-picked limited data that does not show a full picture compared to warrants that requested extensive data. So this is what the defense is claiming. Now, I've seen some people read what the defense is claiming and reading that as fact. This is just what the defense is claiming. The judge has not ruled. And in my opinion, this is coming in. Let me know if you think the Amazon is coming in, or if you think the judge is going to exclude these Amazon searches because the prosecution cherry-picked it. The state refining, so there is evidence. So for everybody that told you guys, that there was no evidence, I feel badly for people who are misled because there is evidence. There's a lot of evidence. Ann Taylor would not be filing motions to exclude it if this was exculpatory evidence for Bryan. But he is innocent until proven guilty. But let me know, what you guys think. The state's refining of all the Amazon history and Amazon click activity is out of context, incomplete, and unfairly judicial, thus making it inadmissible. Incomplete, irrelevant, and unfairly prejudicial evidence is barred by Rules 106, 401, 402, 403, 702, and 703 of the Idaho's Rules of Evidence and pursuant to the 6th, 8th, and 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution and Sections 13 of Article 1 of the Constitution of the State of Idaho. I don't think this dog is going to. But let's continue on together. This motion should be read in conjunction with motion in limine 2, excluding expert Shane Cox and any other expert the state intends to call regarding all the Amazon evidence. So not only does Ann Taylor and Bryan Kohberger's defense team not want the Amazon evidence to come in of his searches, and in my opinion, there's going to be receipts there. This is where, in my opinion, I told you that we had heard that he had purchased the knife in the spring of 2022. Now they don't want Shane Cox and any other state expert to be able to testify regarding the Amazon. So obviously this is terrible for Bryan Kohberger. If it was good for Bryan Kohberger, Ann Taylor would want it to come in. The state disclosed Shane Cox as an expert who will testify about Mr. Kohberger's Amazon activity on that account to include logins and, quote, Amazon click activity. The state wants to use very specific narrow dates. The state has not defined Amazon click activity in any reports or expert disclosures, nor provided any opinions or analysis related to the limited data it has produced. I don't think the judge is going to accept this, but I do understand why Ann Taylor and her defense team feel like they have to do everything they can. Now we understand, I think, better why this autism diagnosis was suddenly made public. The data produced is extremely narrow when compared to the more inclusive and broad warrants and subpoenas. I don't think that the fact that the data being produced was more narrow would be a shock. Even in the face of the court telling the state that, quote, its job was not done with expert disclosures, nothing was produced in the state's rebuttal expert disclosure to further clarify the underlying data analysis and opinions it intends to offer regarding anything Amazon related. So they're mad, they're big mad, but maybe not mad, maybe mad, but their objection is that the state didn't disclose to them sooner. Now, remember, we're 5 months out from the trial, to clarify underlying data analysis and opinions it intends to offer regarding anything Amazon related. So these are procedural reasons that they're giving. But I do think this evidence is going to come in. I just don't see the judge not allowing this. Mr. Kohberger faces his capital trial with no more than the state with no more than the state disclosing an expert testifying about dates related to Mr. Kohberger's Amazon account and the production of records and expertise regarding Amazon click activity. So click activity, but the algorithm made him do it, according to the prosecution. Because Mr. Kohberger is placed in a position of guessing what the state's intentions are, he has consulted with an expert, David Howell, to attempt preparation. So they're upset because they want to know what the state has. And, I do think that the judge may tell the state that they have to turn it over. We are 5 months up, but that'll be up to the judge to decide on that. So Mr. Kohberger has learned that the limited disclosure leaves him unprepared to confront this evidence. Well, he has 5 months to prepare, but again, Ann Taylor might be looking for another delay. Let me know what you think. Is Ann Taylor trying to delay this? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. In this ever-evolving age of technology, and remember, I just want to say this on behalf of the prosecution. And this goes back to what I told you guys that Scott Reich said from Crime Talk. Scott Reich told us that he thought that Ann Taylor made a huge error in not going to trial, waiving Bryan Kohberger's right to a speedy trial. He thought that she made a mistake because he said that he did not think the prosecution was ready after we all found out there was 52 terabytes of information. That's I have maybe a half a terabyte of storage on my computer. So just think about all that. So Ann Taylor complaining that she didn't get it sooner. The prosecution may not have had all of this sooner, to be fair to the prosecution either, because they're having to go through all of this. And I think Scott Wright was right. I don't think the prosecution would have been ready. But that ship has sailed. So Ann Taylor, the defense team led by Ann Taylor continues. In this ever-changing age of technology, Amazon uses artificial intelligence, AI, to improve the customer experience by helping customers find products that match their interests and preferences. See the Amazon.com AR story. Amazon AI-driven system does not just reflect searches, it actively shapes users' behaviors through recommendations, paid advertisements, and algorithm reinforcement. Let me ask you guys a question, because the argument is that the Amazon AI shaped his choice to search for a K-bar knife. Have any of you ever been offered by Amazon to a K-bar knife in any of your shopping? Just let me know in the comment section. I'm going to check in with chat, but I just want to get through this. Amazon's use of AI began well before 2022, often when searching for something on Amazon, and the end of the pathway does not tell the beginning of the pathway. This is because AI is continuously gathering information about a customer's interests and preferences. Right, interests and preferences, and making suggestions along the way. Customer in the context of household sharing an Amazon account is all members of the family sharing the account. In other words, the purchases, searches, and machine learning impact all of the users in the household Amazon account. This kind of reminds me of the Casey Anthony, where they were blaming searches on her parents. She didn't make these searches. Her mother even took the blame for the searches on the chloroform to protect her daughter, in my opinion, allegedly. Kaylee was found not guilty. So the argument is the Amazon AI made him search for a knife. So they say this means that the user's browsing and purchase history may not reflect deliberate intent, but could have been shaped by Amazon's algorithm. So the algorithm made him do it. I'm sorry, you guys. I think the judge will say you can argue this to the jury, but I don't think the judge is going to exclude these searches on Amazon. Omni-channel shopping extends beyond a single device. A user's Amazon activity spans across phones, tablets, laptops, desktops, and even smartphones devices, all tracked and synchronized by Amazon. Shared household devices further complicate attribution as multiple users contribute to search history, ad targeting, and recommendation patterns. Devices, smartphones, computers, and tablets talk to one another and learn from each other. For example, ads that pop up on Facebook and YouTube can be influenced by what you searched for elsewhere. Right, what you searched for elsewhere. What he searched for. If you think the algorithm made him do it, I definitely want to hear your rationale as to why. Amazon's advertising, if you think his parents were searching for a K-bar knife, because I think this is extremely damaging, the fact that they're wanting to exclude it. The Amazon's advertising system plays a critical role in shaping what users see and click on. Unlike a simple search and buy process, Amazon's AI-driven ad placements, keyword targeting, and personalization recommendations actively guide users towards specific products. Amazon specializes in driving suggestions that are not actively searched for by a purchaser. In this case, the states refining or limiting the Amazon, quote, click activity, end quote, to a specific click or specific item excludes data, takes things out of context, and could tell a completely inaccurate story to call the jury to speculate about the intent, to cause the jury to speculate about the intent. I don't think the Amazon algorithm made me do it is going to be enough reason for the judge to keep this out. I think this is coming in, but I understand, Ann Taylor is a great defense attorney. She's doing her job. She is defending Bryan Kohberger with everything that the defense team has. Full Amazon advertising logs and recommendation data must be reviewed to determine whether a purchase was truly, to determine whether a purchase, this is why I like to not just take the news, but actually go through the documents. Did you guys catch that? To determine whether a purchase was truly user initiated or heavily influenced by Amazon's AI. So there it is, guys. There it is, in my opinion, that proves that BK purchased this knife on Amazon, allegedly, in my opinion, but also taking it. So let's read the full sentence. I don't want anybody to think I am trying to mislead you. I am just telling you that this is horrible for Bryan Kohberger. The full Amazon advertising logs and recommendation data must be reviewed to determine whether a purchase was truly initiated or heavily influenced by the Amazon AI. So obviously there was a purchase. Okay. There was a purchase. So for people who are like, well, but maybe he searched for it and didn't buy it. It's right there in black and white. The data does not identify the purchaser through means other than a name or credit card. Well, I told you guys, and I shared with you guys that Bryan Kohberger, that they did get multiple banking information. So they were definitely working to link him to this purchase besides just the fact that he purchased it. But the defense continues. The data produced does not identify the purchaser through means other than by name or credit card, nor does it identify the device from which the item was purchased. I don't really think that matters. I really don't. Let me know what you think. For example, someone buys a pair of binoculars on Amazon on a household account with 4 users, who in the account either searched for binoculars or through some other searches triggered Amazon's AI to do a target ad for binoculars. So what they're trying to say is it's one of the family members' faults. It's the mother or father's fault, because I don't think the sisters were living there, that they triggered the search, and therefore he was targeted with an ad for the K-bar knife, and therefore he made the purchase. I don't think it matters, even if all that is true, which I don't, this is just the defense team saying it could be true. Even if it is true, I don't think it matters if he purchased the knife and that knife sheath with his DNA on the snap underneath and to the side of Maddie, and they could put the knife purchase back to him. That really is going to be very hard for them to overcome. How long were they searching for the binoculars? Were they a wish list for a period of time? Were they placed in a cart and removed, all of which could indicate indecisiveness? Question mark. Did an Amazon AI generate AD cause the purchase of binoculars? And remember, this is not purchase of binoculars. This is not about purchase of binoculars. This is about purchase of a K-bar knife as a result of a search of some other product. So again, the algorithm made me do it. It's just a short way to sum up what's being said here, in my opinion. Were other ads shown to the purchaser by Amazon? How long were the binoculars? Again, this was not binoculars. This is not, and I think this is intentionally, being used binoculars, trying to make it sound benign. This is a K-bar knife, and that knife sheath was found underneath to the side of Maddie with Bryan's DNA on the inside snap in the octillion range that was matched to a cheek swab that was court ordered by the judge. So I think this is terrible, terrible news for the defense. Were the ads shown to the purchaser by Amazon? How long were the binoculars searched for before actually purchased? Again, this is not about binoculars. What types were considered or placed by target ads by Amazon? Were other purchases made around the same time that provide context? Other purchases made around the same time can provide context to the intent of the purchaser. For example, the shopper also purchased a sleeping bag, a tent, a cook stove, long johns, safety vest for an upcoming trip. Now, Ann Taylor is probably, in my opinion, she only needs one juror. I think the defense team is hoping that somebody is going to read this, that he searched for binoculars and that he was planning to go on a hunting trip, and that not that this is just a, what if this was the reason for the search? But this is not the reason for the search. This is about a K-bar knife, and none of these other purchases were being made. So this is all just conflating, in my opinion. Compare the possibility. So this is just all, maybe this and maybe that, them trying everything to get this kicked out. That the purchaser bought and said rope, night vision goggles, zip ties, duct tape, a tarp, a stun gun. These combined purchases show a different intent. I disagree. I think that if he purchased the K-bar knife in the spring of 2022, he purchased the knife. It doesn't matter what his intent was. We know what happened. We know where the knife sheath was found with his DNA on it. It's just getting harder and harder, in my opinion, for Ann Taylor and the defense team to defend this. But let's continue on, because we are gleaning Easter eggs, little nuggets of information. For example, we learned that there was a purchase from taking the time to go through this document rather than just reading a press overview. Okay, so let's continue on, because there might be some other nuggets in here. Amazon's, and this is a document dump. I'm going live with this. I'm sorry. Again, I'm not on camera, but I was going to bed. I was in my pajamas, face washed, teeth brushed, heading to bed. Amazon sponsored product and display ads allow sellers to pay for visibility, meaning that if someone searched for binoculars, boy, she really, really is focused on binoculars, camping gear, and outdoor equipment. I think they're really hoping that, and somebody's going to run with the fact that he mark this comment on my part. Somebody's going to say tomorrow, or maybe later tonight, that Bryan Kohberger was searching for binoculars and camping gear. And that's what the Amazon search was. Somebody's going to say that tomorrow in one of the comments in one of the chat rooms. Somebody is going to say that, because they're going to not understand that it is a knife that was being searched for. It was a knife that was being purchased. We know there was a purchase because we just gleaned that out of their language. Let's see what else we can figure out from reading this. So there was no camping gear or outdoor equipment made with the knife purchase. Let's continue. They could have been ad targeted with a gun or heavy bear spray listing, not because they were looking for these items, but because an advertiser paid for it to appear. It doesn't matter. If they can link this knife with the knife sheath with his DNA on it to a purchase he made on Amazon. That is coming in my opinion. The judge is not going to let that come out, but I understand, how hard the defense is working to try to, keep this out. Remember, if it was good for Bryan Kohberger, they would let this in. If it really was just binoculars, they would let this in. It's not binoculars. They're just conflating binoculars because they don't want to talk about what it really was, which is the K-bar knife, in my opinion. Sellers using Amazon as a platform to sell specifically choose terms to prompt ads. Again, it's the algorithm made me do it. And those terms may be completely unrelated to the item they are selling, yet that term will target the ad to get the purchaser's attention. Again, I don't think this matters. We don't care why he bought it. I don't care. Do you care? If he bought it, he bought it. Similarly, the frequently bought together and customers also bought section often assumed to reflect organic trends and are manipulated by paid placements. Now they're going to try. First, it's the algorithm made me do it. And then if that doesn't work, we're going to the Casey Anthony defense, which is my parents made the search, not me. Do you think his parents are going to get on the stand like Kaylee Anthony's mother did and admit and say that she made this chloroform search? I'm just curious. Do you think Bryan Kohberger's parents are going to do that to try to save his life? It'll be interesting to see. Shared Amazon accounts also impact click activity or search history. This is another example of incomplete or limited data, leading to an improper conclusion in a shared household Amazon account. I don't think it matters. If he bought the knife, he bought the knife. One person in a household's interest in certain items impacts the entire household and attributed to click activity. So now, judge, if you don't want to believe that the algorithm made him click on this knife, then let's blame the other people that lived in the house. It was their search activity that prompted him to get offered this knife, and therefore that's why he clicked on the knife. They continue. This can even happen by the mere existence of proximity to Wi-Fi networks shared by others. Okay, so if you don't want to believe that the parents were searching for a K-bar knife and that's why Bryan Kohberger bought the knife, now we can say that there's other people that lived in other houses. Now, those houses in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, if they're going to claim that this search was done while he was living there, they're pretty far apart. But now, so if you don't want to believe the parents did the search, now she's throwing out a third possibility, which is that it was Wi-Fi network shared by somebody else, and therefore he got offered the knife to buy, and he just bought it. He just bought it. It wasn't that he meant to buy it. And then she includes an article from the Times about your phone is listening to you. I agree, but I don't think that matters. I don't think the jury's going to care if we've got bushy eyebrows coming in, if we've got DNA from the knife sheath snap, if we've got DNA under Maddie's fingernails that, I don't know what that's going to show exactly because it was redacted, but if that, has some probability, this is all going to, and then we have Bryan Kohberger actually buying this on Amazon in the spring of 2022. This is a problem. The Amazon click activity in this case is for an account which is a household account shared by Mr. Kohberger and other family members. The click history includes items searched for or viewed on Amazon, which might be related to search conducted by other family members. I am going to check in with chat. I haven't forgot about you. I want to go through all this. And then if you, let's see. It might be suggested by Amazon based on prior interest or prior purchases and the AI and ML making recommendations that look like click activity. Okay, so now it's not click activity. Now it's going to be, it just looks like it. So, I mean, really, they're throwing everything that they can think of against to keep this Amazon search out. And then we're going to get into the actual argument in just a second. The discovery produced related to all Amazon data and click activity in this case is extremely limited and therefore unconstitutionally incomplete, out of context, and inadmissible. And I would take that with a pinch of salt. That is coming from the defense, who is desperate, in my opinion, to keep this out. This is the same argument that Ann Taylor said it was unconstitutional that law enforcement searched the 1122 King Road house to gather evidence, which was a crime scene, that they would have, that in Ann Taylor's opinion, that they would need a warrant for that. And of course, we know that they were called to the scene by 911. If you're called to the scene because people have been done away with, you don't need a warrant to collect evidence. If you watch CSI, you know this. So here's the argument. Mr. Kohberger, let me grab a sip of water. We'll dig into this. I just want to see if there's any other Easter eggs in here, any other little nuggets that we can gain, because we already know from reading through this ourselves that there was a purchase. So here's the argument. Mr. Kohberger believes that the state intends to use Amazon evidence to prove elements of its case. To allow in the face of the explanation above and the failure to disclose would be unconstitutional and in violation of the rules of evidence. A Rule 06 guards against introduction of incomplete evidence. So now she's going to claim, if you don't want to buy anything else that I've told you, now we're going to say that the evidence is not complete. In fairness, incomplete Amazon data and click activity should not be offered as evidence. Cherry picking. Remember, the law enforcement had to get a limited search warrant. They couldn't just be allowed to search his search history for his whole entire life. So her saying that it's incomplete and that they're cherry picking when they're limited by a judge's willingness to sign off on a warrant just seems really unfair, in my opinion. But here we go. Incomplete data activity, Amazon data and click activity should not be offered as evidence. Cherry picking the specific clicks or purchases, again, purchases out of the Amazon click history removes all of the context explained above. So then she talks about the Idaho rule of law. Oh, let me go back. Sorry, I was on page 6. And it says, if a party introduces, I'll make sure I'm back with you guys. Yeah, okay. If a party introduces all of or in part of writing or recorded statements, an adverse party may require the introduction at that time of any part or any other writing or recorded statement that in fairness ought to be considered at the same time. Quote, so this is their argument, under the common law rule that underpins Idaho Rule of Evidence 106, the reason for the completion doctrine is that there is a, quote, danger that out of context statement may create such prejudice that it is impossible to repair by subsequent presentation of additional material. She's citing State versus Ogun in Idaho. Thus, Rule 106 requires, she has other citations here. You guys can read it for yourself. I'll link this document for you. Thus, the Rule 106 requires the admission of those portions of the statement that are necessary to qualify, explain, or place into context the portion already introduced. These citations were omitted, but she's got some rules. 401, 402, 403 exclude evidence that is irrelevant and unfairly prejudicial. I don't think this is going to be irrelevant because that knife sheath was found underneath and to the side of Maddie and it has his DNA on it. I don't think this judge is going to say this is irrelevant. We're getting to the end of the document. So twice we've heard that there is a purchase involved. And again, it's not binoculars. It is a knife. Evidence must be relevant to be admissible. IRE 402. The test for relevancy is set out in IRE 401, which provides that evidence is relevant if it has any tendency to make fact more or less probable than it would have been without the evidence. So let me ask you, do you think that this evidence makes it more or less probable, the fact that he purchased a K-bar knife on Amazon, allegedly? Do you think that this fact, this makes it more or less probable that that knife sheath with his DNA on the snap found underneath into the side of Maddie belongs to Bryan Kohberger? Yes or no? Let me know in the comment section below. And B, the fact is of consequence in determining the action. She talks about the IRE 401 State versus Sheldon. IRE 402 instructs that relevant evidence is admissible unless these rules or other rules applicable in the courts of the state provide otherwise. Irrelevant evidence is not admissible, as noted above. IRE 401 provides the test for relevancy. We're almost to the end, guys. I just want to see if there's any other little nuggets. So far, we've seen the word purchased twice, and that tells me that this knife was purchased. Under IRE 403, this court may exclude evidence, quote, if its probative value is substantially outweighed by the danger of one or more of the following. 1, unfair prejudice. 2, confusing the issues. 3, misleading the jury. 4, undue delay. 5, wasting time. 6, needlessly presenting cumulative evidence. So she's trying everything that she can. She's anything that could possibly keep this Amazon search out. I just don't think, I know I admire the fact that she's trying. I just don't think that this dog is going to hunt. I think this is coming in. This is IRE 403. This rule requires the court to balance the probative value of the evidence against the danger that the evidence may be unfairly prejudicial. State versus Johnson. And then the conclusion is, for the reasons above, Mr. Kohberger respectfully requests this court grant his motion in limine to exclude any Amazon and Amazon click activity evidence because it is improperly isolated, out of context, does not take into account advertising influence and omni-channel factors. Mr. Kohberger intends to offer testimony of David Howell at the motion hearing on April 9th of 2025. So we'll get to see that. Hopefully we're allowed to see that, but I don't think, let me know what you think the judge is going to do on this. I don't think this dog is going to hunt. Let me check in with chat. I feel bad. We have some more stuff to get into. Let me move myself over. Let me just say hello to chat. Come on in, guys. Let me just see where you guys are at on this. I hope I didn't get too wonky there, but I did want to go through it because you can find things in these motions, and I'm having to go through this, live on the air with you guys. So thank you to NJazz and also to Brother Mike for modding today. Let's see. Thank you guys. Come on in. John says stun baton looks like a vacuum nozzle. Oh, that's interesting. Await the medical report. Yeah, that's interesting, Jack. Thank you for sharing that. And Justice says, poor girls. Yeah. Hey, Mike. Mike says, DM is so lucky she didn't confront him. I agree. Yeah, please give this a thumbs up. Let the algorithm know we're doing a G-rated show. I am going to go back into the roommates, and I am going to dig in for those 911 transcripts. I just don't want to be unsocial. Lynette says, I don't believe it was all silent. 818 Roller says the 911 call contradicts their text role play act. One says they saw a man inside with them, and another said there was a man with them in their room hanging out. Do you have a link for that? Because I'm like, let me see if I can pull up those because I'm like trying to find those documents. Let's see. I'm like trying to find that. So if you have a link, Rollo, please share it with me. I would love to go through that with you guys on the air. Let's look at it. I'm not seeing anything like that. Let me try one more place. Hold on one second. I have to hold on. I'm still here, but I just have to go out and go into. Let me see. the live stream that I did. It would have been not the last one, but the one before. It's going to be one of these two. Okay, let's see. Nope, it's not letting me in. I tried to go in through the documents, but it's not letting me on there. I'm not sure why. Let me try one more way. Let's see. So one way doesn't work, maybe another way will. Okay. This will seem something's loading. All right. And all I have is the document. Okay. Nope, I do not. I'm trying to see if I can get the transcripts of those 911 calls. And I have the text messages. Let's see. Okay, I got another source. All right, let's go through this. Let me make sure I'm not blocking your view. All right. Let's go through this one together. See what we can find. Thanks for that, Rolo. All right. Okay, so this is, let's go through. We went through the text messages. I'll go through them again in a second, but let me just see. Okay, here we go. I got the transcripts of the 911 call. Okay, thank you for your patience, you guys. Got it. Thanks, Rolo. Okay, so we'll go through the text messages again in a second. All right, here's the transcript of the 911 call. Then we're going to go through the transcripts of the text message if you're just joining us. Hi, is something happening? Something is happening. Something happened at our house. We don't know what, the caller says. So we don't know who the caller is. Let me just see if there's... So these are the text messages. We're going to go through those in a second. Sorry for all the pop-ups, you guys. Okay. One of our roommates who's passed out and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up. Okay, so all right, so the passed out did not come from just how they normally answer the calls. The passed out comes from because they were trying to wake somebody up. Wow, this is really interesting. So a second voice tells the operator, so there's multiple people, that the girls, quote, saw some man in their house last night. So this would, I think, is going to be Ethan's friend. The dispatch operator has to repeatedly instruct the girls to stop, quote, handing the phone around as they take turns trying to convey the trauma they've witnessed. Eventually, when the authorities arrive and the call is about to end, an unknown voice says, I think we have a homicide. Whoa, that's really, really chilling. That is really creepy, you guys. So let's go through the text messages. I like the other source I had on them better, so let me go back to that one. I think this is laid out a little bit better because it lays it out with the timeline, and it's also bigger and easier for you guys to read. Let me just make sure I'm not blocking you. No, okay. All right, so let's go through this. So this is, if you're just joining me, we just went through the 911 call. Now we're going to go through the text messages. So I think that, it is sad that nobody called 911 sooner. It does sound like Dylan freaked out. And this is probably why she had such tough interviews with law enforcement. But the filing says this is exactly what they said. So obviously they were trying prior to the text. Let me just this. Prior to the text, Dylan Mortensen tried to call Bethany Funk and 3 of the victims. So that would be Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana. I'm assuming it's not going to be Ethan. I don't know. I think she would have called her roommates. None of her calls were answered. She said to Bethany Funk, "No one is answering. I'm really confused, RN, which is right now." Dylan says to text Kaylee. Dylan texts Kaylee again. "What's going on?" So obviously, in my opinion, the roommates don't think that Kaylee has been done away with, but they've heard something or seen something, or just, or it may not be that it sounded like what we thought it sounded like, because Ethan and Xana didn't call 911 either. Bethany Funk texts to Dylan, "Yeah, dude, what the F?" Bethany Funk to Dylan, "Xana was wearing all black." So obviously, in my opinion, there was a phone call somewhere in here, and Bethany's thinking, and she's like, "Yeah, but Xana was wearing all black," to Dylan, trying to calm her down. Dylan to Bethany, "I'm freaking out, RN," which is right now. Dylan to Bethany, "No, it's like a ski mask almost." So she's describing what the man wore. So I feel like there was some phone calls going on in between this. Bethany to Dylan, "Shut the front door," except for she uses "you." Bethany to Dylan, "Actually, shut the front door, actually. Shut the F you, actually." Dylan to Bethany, "Like he had," and she misspells here again. She was intoxicated. She admitted that. "Over something over his head and a little end mouth." So I don't know what ND is. I'm thinking like an opening for the mouth. So it does sound like she was describing a ski mask. She says it's like a ski mask almost. Dylan says to Bethany, to FBF, "I'm not kidding. Oh, I'm so freaked out." Bethany to Dylan, "So am I." Dylan to Bethany, "My phone is going to die." Bethany to Dylan, "Come to my room." Bethany to Dylan, "Run." Bethany to Dylan, "Down here." Then Dylan wrote in another text. Now, then we go to the next morning. Now, Dylan did go to Bethany's room. We have learned this tonight. Dylan did go to Bethany's room and slept in the room with Bethany, according to this. Now, maybe we'll find something else at a trial. I wish that they had called 911 on this night, but to me, this does, in my opinion, show that the roommates did not have anything to do with this. Dylan also appeared to reference the intruder she later told police she encountered while peering out her bedroom door. She referenced something like a ski mask almost in her text with Bethany. So now let's go to the text messages that were the morning after. So remember, Dylan is in the room at this point with Bethany, and they fell asleep. The next morning at 10:23, Dylan sends a message to Kaylee, "Please answer." Dylan sends a message to Maddie, "Are you up?" So obviously this "please answer" tells me that prior to 10:23, so 23 minutes and 23 seconds, there was probably a phone call to Kaylee that she didn't answer. So she probably texts Kaylee, "Please answer." Then she texts Maddie, "Are you up?" Then she texts Kaylee, "Are you up?" So the next phone call is that the next thing Dylan does is she calls her dad around 11:40 a.m. So clearly she is only 19 years old. She does not know what to do. And she calls her dad. And then we have this go through the timeline and how this lines up. That's why I wanted to use this source rather than the other one. But I will go back to that one. The timeline and we'll go back and relook at the 911 call and just put all the pieces together. The timeline of the November 13th goes like this. 4 a.m., the suspect arrives at the house. Actually, I think it's a little bit after. I think it's like 4:04 because of the DoorDash. I think they tightened it up a little bit more. Between 4 and 4:17 a.m. is the time of that Kaylee, Ethan, Maddie, and Xana were done away with. At 4:19, Dylan calls all three victims and no one answers. So 2 minutes after. 4:22 to 4:24, Dylan texts the message, is the other roommate. She's texting with Bethany. This flurry of text between her and Bethany happened, over a 2-minute time. At 4:27, Dylan calls the victim again. No one answers. So we don't know if she was calling all three victims. At 4:32, roommates text Kaylee, please answer. So that's at 10:23. Dylan texts the victims. No one answers. At the 11:39 in the morning. So this is 10:23 in the morning. 11:39 in the morning. Dylan calls her dad. At 12 p.m., a 911 call was placed from roommate's phone to the phone operator. So now let's look at that 911 call. So we have, if you're just joining me, we have the context. Let me grab this. Okay. Let me move myself out of the way. All right. Now let's put that in context with this call. So we have you guys know that they were texting, and 17 total text messages fearing somebody was in their house. All right, so here's the transcript of the 911 call that we have so far. Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what. So we don't know if this was Bethany calling, because it was Bethany's phone. So it may have been Bethany placing the call. Quote, one of our roommates who's passed out, and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up. So to me, the second voice tells the operator that the girls, quote, saw some man in their house last night. So girls is plural. And remember, I told you that I believed that that Bethany and Dylan saw the same man. Dylan saw someone dressed all in black with bushy eyebrows, wearing a mask, who was athletic but not muscular. And Bethany saw someone, according to the mirror, who was stripping these things off and dropping things into a bag, according to the judge. So a second voice tells the operator that the girls saw some man in the house last night. The dispatcher has to repeatedly instruct the girls to, quote, stop handing the phone around, as they take turns trying to convey the trauma they've witnessed. Eventually, when authorities arrive and the call is about to end, an unknown voice says, I think we have a homicide. Now, this could be law enforcement at this point, because we know that this comment, I think we have a homicide, was made when authorities arrive. What do you guys think about it? And this is the iconic picture that Kaylee posted just hours before she was done away with. Let's see if we can glean anything more about the text messages from this taking of it. I just want to see. Okay, so we know that Dylan responded to Bethany's request, asking her to run to her room. Dylan said she was scared to do so. So something really did scare her. It's a shame they didn't call 911. It is a shame. But Bethany swiftly responded, telling her, yeah, I know, I know, but it's better than being alone. So Bethany is telling her, and the duo hunkered down in Bethany's room, and Dylan made efforts to contact her roommates again in the morning. Dylan, whose bedroom was on the second floor, came face to face with the masked man in the immediate aftermath of the crimes. They use the M word here, according to previous released court documents. She told investigators she had been woken by noises in the house at around 4 a.m. and had heard a voice say, quote, there's someone here. Dylan also heard what sounded like whimpering coming from Xana's room, and a voice saying, quote, it's okay, I'm going to help you. A man's voice said it. Dylan told investigators she had opened her door and peeked outside 3 times. The third time, she said she saw a man with bushy eyebrows dressed in black walk past her room and head toward the sliding back doors of the house. BK's defense has asked the court to block any evidence referencing bushy eyebrows. So they don't want the defense to be, they don't want the prosecution to be able, or Dylan to be able to testify that she saw a man with bushy eyebrows. I don't think that's going to happen. We talked about this earlier. And then we have this vague alibi offered up by Bryan Kohberger for the night of the crimes, claiming he was driving around looking at the stars. So we have no witness that can corroborate where he was. His own attorney, Ann Taylor, admitted to that in a court filing. We have DNA found on the knife sheath that links back to Bryan Kohberger. And now we have this motion from Ann Taylor that admits that he, Bryan Kohberger, purchased the knife on Amazon. She has all kinds of reasons why he did it and why it shouldn't be allowed in, but she, says he purchased it. Purchased is used twice in this document. And I already read it. I'm not going to read the whole document again to you guys, but let me just check in with you guys. Again, I'm sorry I'm not on camera, but I thought I was going to bed. But I hope you know that anytime we have breaking news, CPS says saying that he purchased a knife on Amazon, that is in fact not a fact. Well, this is his own defense attorney saying that he purchased it. So how is that not a fact? I guess would be my question. I mean, it's in the document that I just shared. I read it all to you. Maybe you posted that before I read the document. I know some people, and I'm really sorry if you've been misled. I have been telling you guys the truth on my channel for the last, the whole time as I know it on this channel, of everything that I've known. I have told you guys the truth. I did not tell you that there was tunnels under the house. I did not tell you, I've just tried to tell you guys the truth. Ophi CL says, based on the 911 transcript, there was like 10 different people on the phone. It says passed around. It does not say 10 different people. But Misty says she put the link in chat. Misty, let me see if I can see it. If somebody can flag that link. If Misty has a link, I would love to see it. If not, I found it. So let's see. Okay, let's try going to the Idaho court site. Let me go to that. Let me try that. See if I can get more of this phone call so we can read every little last bit of it together. It's definitely worth it. I do have the court doc links. Okay, I'm on it. Let me move myself out of the way. Okay. So I'm on the state of Idaho's site. So I'm looking for the 911 call. Here we go. The 911 call. Got it. Okay. All right. Here we go, guys. Let me move this. Thank you so much for that. Who was that? Misty. Thank you, Misty. Thank you, Misty. Really appreciate your directing me to that. Okay. So we got it. All right. Let's go through that next. So stay with me, guys. There's a lot to go through. This is redacted, but this is the state's motion in limine regarding the 911 call. And this, I wish they would have released this right out of the gate, but I understand Ann Taylor wanting to protect Bryan Kohberger's rights to a fair trial. So the beginning is just, we're come now the state of Idaho respectfully moves the court in an order for limine to allow the state to admit the recording and transcript of the 911 call to Whitcomb on November 13th of 2022. The 911 recording was discovered as AB0002 and the transcript was discovered as Bates 12422-12426. Facts. The fact pertinent to the issue raised by this motion can be found in the attached exhibits, the jury transcript, and the 911 call recording and the transcript of the call. The statement of the 911 call are hearsay but fall within firmly rooted hearsay exceptions and should be allowed. In general, testimony is hearsay. That is, hearsay is excluded in trial. However, there are many exceptions to this rule. Two firmly rooted exceptions are: 1, Idaho rule of evidence, present a sense of impression. A statement describing or explaining an event or condition made while immediately after the declarant perceived it. 2, Idaho Rule of Evidence 8032, excited utterance, a statement related to a startling event of condition while the declarant was under the stress of the excitement caused. Then they cite all the reasons why this should be let in. So this is the prosecution. Okay. Let's see what we can find out about this phone call. Okay. Phone call made within approximately 1/2 hour. This is all why this should be let in. So in the case, the most declarations were present sense impressions, located the unresponsive body of Xana Kernodle, and informed, this is going to be Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen to call. So HJ, that's why I told you guys that my understanding was that it was one of Ethan's friends that came over. So so we now know that it was not Bethany or Dylan that found Xana. Initially, it was somebody with the initials HJ. Located the unresponsive body of Xana Kernodle and informed Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen to call 911. EA was present at the time. So again, I shared with you that it was Dylan's friends were over there. All declarants personally perceived the event, i.e., Xana was not responsive. Kernodle is Xana's last name. The majority of the declarations were describing to dispatcher Carolina Calvin what they were perceiving, i.e., present sense impressions. Those statements relate to Xana, they're saying her Kernodle being passed out and not waking up. The declarations were made immediately after HJ discovered Xana's body. Okay, so trigger warning here, guys. Some declaration made would be considered excited utterances. Those statements include, oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. As well as the heaving, breathing, and crying that can be heard throughout the call. The declarants were responding to a startling occasion, which is the discovery of an unresponsive roommate. The statement regarding a person being at home is a direct response to why Xana, they're saying Kernodle, might be passed out. All statements, so this is the prosecution arguing why this 911 call should be allowed in. All statements are made while the declarants are processing what is happening and were made before an opportunity to reflect and fabricate why Xana is unconscious. Clearly, the statements of Bethany Funk, Dylan Mortensen, EA, and HJ, so remember I told you Ethan's friend stopped by to pick him up. Woke up Bethany, and the dispatcher, Carolina Calvin, fall within hearsay rule exceptions. Judge John Judge has already ruled that the 911 call is not hearsay, i.e., not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, and even if deemed hearsay, the exceptions for present sense impression and excited utterance do apply. So I believe that this 911 call will go before the jury. because we already have a little bit of a clue, because Judge John Judge has already ruled that he would have let it in. I don't think that the Ada County judge is going to keep it out. On August 23rd of 2023, the defendant moved to dismiss the grand jury indictment. One basis for that motion was the 911 call was, quote, improperly admitted hearsay, cumulative, irrelevant, and improper attempt to bolster witness testimony. In response, Judge John Judge held as follows. So this is the first that we're getting to learn more about the grand jury. This is what Judge John Judge said. Further, even if the 911 call is hearsay and the exception for present sense impression and excited utterance apply, as the statement made by the callers, i.e. the surviving roommates, HJ and another friend who arrived, were made immediately after HJ discovered Ms. Kernodle's body and instructed the roommates to call 911. And he cited IRE 803, 18032. And this is the rationale justifying the present sense impression exception, and that the immediacy of the statement offers no opportunity for fabrication. So, quote, seal order deny motion to dismiss indictment on the grounds of a biased grand jury. So that motion was denied. Inadmissible evidence, lack of sufficient evidence, and prosecutorial misconduct. That was all denied by the Latah County Judge, Judge John Judge. Regarding the, quote, emotion, end quote, in the caller's voices, Judge John Judge further held that the evidence was relevant, quote, as to why law enforcement was sent to the 1122 King Road home on November 13th of 2022, as opposed to just emergency medical services, EMS, when the call was for an unconscious individual. This testimony was deemed relevant to the effect it had on the dispatcher, Calvin, and was not cumulative of Officer Nunez's testimony. B. The statements made on the 911 call are admissible irregardless of whether or not witnesses testify. So Lee County Judge John Judge was going to let this call in. Under IRE 803, present sense impressions and excited utterances are admissible whether or not the declarant is available as a witness. So even if Dylan and Bethany weren't going to testify, he was going to let this in. Any statement found outside of the above exceptions to hearsay are non-testimonial for the purposes of Crawford analysis. Even if somehow deemed testimonial, the Confrontation Clause of the Sixth Amendment does not bar their admission. Finally, we reiterate that when the declarant appears for the cross-examination at the trial, the Confrontation Clause places no constraint at all on the use of his prior testimonial statements. And then they cite case law and then say the clause does not bar admission of a statement so long as the declarant is present at trial to defend or explain this. The state submits if any of the declarations are made are deemed testimonial. Each of the declarations will testify at trial. Conclusion: based on the above cited authority, the state will respectfully praise for the court's approval in limine of the admission of the recordings and transcripts of the 911 call to Whitcomb on November 13th of 2022, immediately following the discovery of Xana Kernodle unresponsive at 1122 King Roadhouse, and it's signed by the Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Ashley S. Jennings. So let me see if I can find anything else about the 911 call. It says redacted on that, so that might be all we get right now. Let's look at this. Okay. All right, so this is text messages. Misty says, if a shared account of people living at the same address, would it even matter who purchased it? Kids steal guns from their parents, so the state's just trying to prove he had access to a K-bar. I agree. I think that's some really common sense. All right, let's go through this one together. Let me close this out. All right, so this is the text messages. Let's see if there's anything else in here. There's all the reasons of why these should be in here. So these are just a lot of citations, guys. And here's the actual text messages. This is literally what I just showed you. See if there's anything else that we didn't already go through. Thank you for bearing with me while we go through this together. I just want to see if there's anything else in this that gives us some clues. Oh, yeah, we did find some more stuff. Okay, let's go. Okay, there we go. Turns out Dylan was texting with her dad. Okay. Let's see. All right, so argument. DM's phone records contained in Exhibit S1 for November 13th of 2022 and Bethany Funk's testimony contained in Exhibit S2 as to what DM told her should be allowed at trial. In the case at bar starting November 13th at 2:10:29, Dylan sends a text message to EG, that's the Uber driver, to inquire if he's driving. The state submits this text message exchange as not hearsay because it will not be offered for the truth of the matter asserted. EG's driving status. Instead, it will be offered to show a timeline for that night. Dylan Mortensen was awake and texting at 2:10 and from 4:19:07 to 4:21:50. Dylan attempts to call Bethany Funk, Xana Kernodle, Kaylee Goncalves, and Maddie Mogan. All calls unanswered. The records of these calls are not hearsay as they do not meet the definition of the standard oral assertion, written assertion, or nonverbal conduct intended as assertion. All right, so we went through the text messages already, but let's go through the rest of this. All of the above declarations are present tense impressions and excited utterances. This is supported by Dylan Mortensen's grand jury testimony. So now we know Dylan testified for the grand jury, where she indicates she just witnessed a startling event, i.e. heard noises in residence and saw an unknown male in the residence. The declarations indicate both Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen are trying to make sense of a startling event, contemporaneously or immediately following the startling event, i.e. no time for reflection or fabrication. And we can look at Dylan's grand jury testimony if you guys want, let me know. At 4:24, Dylan Mortensen calls Ethan Chapin. Okay, so this is new. We didn't have this in the other one. At 4:24 and 39 seconds, Dylan Mortensen calls Ethan Chapin. That call is unanswered. This phone record, like the other record of calls, is not a statement pursuant to IRE 801A. Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk continue to text. At 4:24:58, Dylan Mortensen texts Bethany Funk, "I'm screwed, though," is what I think she's trying to say. And Bethany Funk responds, "Yeah, I know, but it's better than being alone." I don't know if she's saying I'm afraid, I'm screwed. I don't know what she's trying to say there. I'm SC capital RWD. She was impaired. She admits she was drinking. But Bethany's telling her it's better than being alone. Again, both statements are admissible as present tense impressions and excited utterances as they are describing an event in their state of mind and are spontaneous reactions to that event rather than the result of a reflective thought. So these are all claims being made by the prosecution, okay? At 4:27:47, Dylan Mortensen calls Goncalves, so that's Kaylee, call unanswered. At 4:28 and 44 seconds, Dylan calls Xana Kernodle, call unanswered. These are not statements pursuant to the IRE 801A. At 4:32:57, so just a few minutes later, she sent a text message to Kaylee Goncalves stating, "Please answer." The statement is in a present tense impression, shows Dylan perception of events, and an excited utterance, spontaneous reaction to that event rather than the result of reflective thought. The next morning, Dylan Mortensen sends the following text messages starting at 10:23 minutes and 23 seconds. She texts Kaylee, please answer. She texts Maddie, are you up? She texts Kaylee, are you up? These text messages are not hearsay because they will not be introduced for the truth of the matter asserted, even if deemed hearsay, they are allowed. This is the prosecution claiming that they're allowed, not the judge. Even if deemed hearsay, they are allowed as present sense impressions as they reflect a consistency and continuation of Dylan's text messages from the night prior and reflect her then perception of what was then occurring, waking up and realizing she had not heard from her roommates. At 11:39:09, DM has a text exchange with her father, who is B. Mortensen. These statements are not hearsay as they will not be introduced for the truth of the matter asserted, but instead to show a timeline for the morning. At 11:50 and 55 seconds, Dylan Mortensen receives a text message from Jay stating, bro. We don't know who Jay is. This text message will not be introduced for the truth of the matter asserted. At 11:50 and 58 seconds, DM calls EA. Oh, this is really interesting. So we're going to find out exactly what happened that morning. For you guys that are that hung on here with me, thank you so much. I feel like it's definitely worth going through the documents. Okay, so Dylan called EA. This phone record is not a statement pursuant to IRE 801. Dylan Mortensen receives a text message from Jay at 11:51:01 and a vandal alert at 1:04:01. These texts are not hearsay because they will not be introduced for the truth of the matter asserted, but instead showing a timeline for that morning. Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk testimony contained in the State Exhibit S2 and State Exhibit S3. The state anticipates that both Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk will testify at trial. We know that they will. Ann Taylor tried to filed motions to suppress their testimony, and the judge is allowing that to come in. Now, Ann Taylor can cross-examine them, but remember, if it's good for the defense, Ann Taylor wants it to come in. She's not trying to suppress it. But I do think that Ann Taylor will be able to go after the roommates on the delay. But I also think that from a jury's point of view, because we've learned today that the knife was purchased on Amazon in the spring of 2022, according to Ann Taylor's motion to suppress, that she does, it says purchase twice in there. And so, I just think that's going to be really, even if the roommates, have Ann Taylor's able to poke holes in it, and I think she will because they were intoxicated. I still think that this, but I don't know. I still think this is bad for Bryan. The state intends to ask each witness about the statements made to them on November 13th of 2022. This testimony should substantively replicate the testimony they provided at the grand jury proceedings. The state submits the statements are both from Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk to each other are allowable hearsay because they are present sense impressions and or excited utterances. And that's what the Latah County Judge John Judge, also ruled, and he points this out, previous adjudication. Judge John Judge has previously ruled that the text messages and statements of Dylan Mortensen to Bethany Funk are, quote, present tense impressions and excited utterances, holding both the text messages and the testimony of Bethany Funk as to what Dylan Mortensen told her were admissions as exception to the hearsay rule, quote, sealed order denying motion to dismiss indictment on grounds of the biased grand jury, inadmissible evidence, lack of sufficient evidence, and prosecutorial misconduct. And I already showed you that motion, and they lost that motion. So the defense did lose that, and the judge in Latah County, Judge Sean Judge, allowed their testimony to come in. I expect this Ada County judge, Judge Hip Lur, I believe that he will also say he will rule in a similar fashion. I don't see why he would change his mind unless something egregious and new comes to light. Dylan's Mortensen's phone records contained in Exhibit S1 are for November 13th of 2022, and Bethany Funk's testimony contained in Exhibit S2 are allowable at the trial under Crawford. And then it just talks about any, why it should be allowed in. And then it's signed based on the cited authority. The state respectfully submits the court's approval in limine of the admission of the text messages from Dylan Mortensen on November 13th of 2022 and the testimony of Bethany Funk regarding what Dylan Mortensen told her on November 13th. So this was submitted the 24th day of February the 25th. All right, so that gives you guys a pretty good overview of what we know so far. And it's a lot. I mean, we have a lot coming in. We have a lot of information. Let me check in with chat. I do want to just check in. I just want to pull up the text messages so they're on the screen. Okay. So we've gone through the 911 call. We've gone through the text messages. What do you guys think about this? Tell me, let's have a conversation. Let me just do thank you to Lead with Love. She sent me, check your messages. I sent a transcript of the call. Where did you send it, Lead with Love? Where, check which, I need a hint where to check. Did you, because we just went through it, but check my messages where? That's, I guess, my question. And thank you to NJazz for the gifted channel membership. Thank you so much, NJazz. If you got that, tell me who you are. Lead with Love says, scroll all the way to the bottom. It's there. It's Exhibit S3, but there's a blank page before it. Okay, let me go look for that. Scroll all the way to the bottom. Exhibit S3. All right, I'm at the bottom scrolling up. Let me take this down. Can you guys, if you see it, let me know in case I miss it. I'm going to just go through slowly. Exhibit S3. Boy, I wish there was a way to type this in. Motion to seal Exhibit S3. Let's see if that's it. This is an order to seal the state's exhibits. Titled S1 through S1A through S1E, attached to the state's supplemental response to discovery for regarding. So that's not it. Okay, can you guys hear me? Oh, you're welcome. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else. So I'm looking for. Let me grab this so you can see what I'm looking at. Okay, so this is what I'm going through. These are all the documents that I'm trying to find. So I just looked at this one, motion to seal Exhibit S1. to see if there's anything else. Motion to seal Exhibit S1. RE, motion to extend state's rebuttal expert. There's order sealing exhibit. These are sealing. Order exhibiting. Motion to seal S1 state's response to defendant's 22nd. Motion to seal exhibits to state's rebuttal. We went through the alibi the other day. I'm just reading through these. The defense wants to strike. Excluding the click activity, we went through that one. We went through bushy eyebrows yesterday. We went through psychopath, sociopath yesterday. We went through using the murder word yesterday. Let's see. We went through this one with the 911 call that's redacted. We went through the text messages. Let's see if there's anything else that we can go through. We went through the autism spectrum disorder. I don't think we could see it though. Oh, we have it today. Let's go through this one. Okay, let's go through this one. I wasn't sure if I could text the name of it here. Yeah, you can. Okay, so let's go through this. This is autism. Let's see if this tells us anything. It's not much. It just says the court having before it a stipulated motion to file the defendant's exhibit in support of their motion to strike the capital punishment. He used DP word RE, autism spectrum disorder. So this is just him acknowledging that he got it. Okay, let's see what else. All right. We went through this 911 call redacted. Just looking to see what else we have. Expert witness, expert witness, expert witness, exhibits in support for their motions. That's orders, just an order sealing it. And we did already go through this 911 call redacted one. So I don't know. Is there anything else you guys want me to go through? Let me know and I'll go through it for you guys. I do want to say, I'm not ending. We're going to talk, but I do want to say thank you to our producers, Jazz, Sasha Angel, George Brown Pepper, and Lisa Fazio. And thank you to all our channel members. If you would like to become a channel member and have your name just like this, shown in all of my live streams and videos, just hit the join button. It's next to the subscribe button. It's a couple of dollars a month, I think. And you get a check mark next to your name and members only live streams. And we do a lot of Q&As in there. So we might dig into this some more in a members only live stream that I have scheduled for this weekend. And also let me do super thanks and coffee gratitude. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for your generosity and gifted channel memberships. So I do want to keep going though. I do want to do, this is a live stream, so I do want to be interactive. I wish I was on camera. I'm sorry, I'm not. I was like in my pajamas, teeth brushed, ready to crawl in bed, and I got an alert. So let's see what you guys have to say. I'm just curious. I do think that no matter what, there's going to be some people. And I did scroll all the way to the bottom. I did do that on this. And that's the last one. I can try it. She says scroll to the bottom. That's just talking about an invasion of privacy. I'm just opening these up, just looking. Yeah, I've gone most of these. I've gone through. So I think we got everything, you guys. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to go through. I'm here and I'm willing to go through it with you guys. Mike says that was one guy. He said he thought he saw the car there and often looked out of the place. He didn't know he didn't live there. I forget his name. Buddy the dog a few miles away a few weeks earlier. No update from law enforcement. Yeah, I don't think that's going to come in. I just think that it is interesting, but I don't think they're going to let that come in because I just think that's going to be harder to prove. And I think they're just going to be focused, in my opinion, on just what they can actually show. They have enough. I really do think they have enough. Let me share this one instead. We did get to go through the 911 call, so I think that I'm happy with that. But come on in and talk to me, you guys. Come on up. Let's chit chat about this a little bit. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? I'm going to read. Can you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay, good. All right. I just reloaded it. Let me re-grab this again. So it took down when I refreshed it, it took down my screen. Okay. Let me move myself over. All right. So you guys can hear me. I'm glad. Okay. So let's chit chat, you guys. I want to hear what you guys are thinking about this. Hey, Jody. Debbie says, why would she think that she is a child still? I don't know. I missed out on the conversation. Let me see. Mike says, 8-8. I think Ian noticed a car there, but he didn't know they didn't live there. Hey, Veronica. Thanks for telling me you can hear me. Thanks, Jody. Thanks, you guys. Yeah, I just, I don't, NJAZ is in the UK. What time is it there? 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got to be in the 4 o'clock in the morning. NJAZ's time. NJAZ, are you even still here? You must be so tired. Thank you for modding to all of you guys who are here modding with me. Leslie said, BK certainly knew his way around. It's at me, Mike. $3 a.m. Oh, wow. That's just absolutely crazy. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm sorry that it's so late. We're not gonna be too much long. Veronica says, I was just thinking it's 3 a.m. there, girl. Go to bed. And we have the time change this weekend too, I think. Yeah, I need to soon. Okay, so let me just go over a couple of quick changes with you guys that I am going to do, and that is that I was going to do a Bryan Kohberger live stream where I went through all of this, or a lot of this, but when I had the breaking news, obviously I went live. I was going to go through Ann Taylor's motion, which I already did with you, and the shopping list. So the live stream that I had scheduled for, I think it was tomorrow night, I'm not going to do, just because we, went so late tonight. And unless there's breaking news, if there's breaking news, then by all means, please hit the notification bell so you get notified. If there is breaking news, obviously I will. But if not, then I'm not going to go live tonight. I will adjust it. And what I'll do is go live, not tomorrow night, but the night after. I'll look at the schedule, just double check this. I'll have everything posted, and I will reschedule a Bryan Kohberger live stream. I'll just have one up and going. And then if I need to go live sooner, I will. It has been a long video. It has been. It's only 7:11 there, Leslie. Like I said, I wake up a lot at 4 a.m. and think about this case. I can't imagine the parents. Yeah, can you imagine what they've been through? Gee Willikins, I can't imagine either. And then having all this come out. If Dylan and Bethany had called 911 right away, and these are young girls, so I don't in any way want to blame or shame them. These are young girls. They were drinking. Dylan was only 19. She was literally a teenager, you guys. But if they had called 911 right away, they might have got him right then and there. They might have got him right then and there. Well, guys, I think I'm going to leave it there. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure your notifications are turned on. And I will be uploading another Bryan Kohberger live stream. Obviously, I went through everything I was going to go through with you guys tomorrow, but I will be going live with you this weekend for sure. So make sure you have your notifications on. And if anything pops up tomorrow, I'll hop on and we'll do it. So thank you so much for being part of the Reporter Room family. And for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. Good night, Leslie. Good night, Njaz. Thank you to all of our mods. This is head mod Njaz. Our other head mods are Six Sense Amelia and Brother Mike. But thank you to all of our mods. Thank you to our channel members. Thank you to our producers. And thank you to our channel members. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you guys. And if you got here late, you want to back it up and go through those text messages. And you can rewatch this if you want to. If there's something you want to go through, you can do that. Thank you to all of you who helped me find the documents. It was absolutely bonkers trying to do all this, but I'm really glad we did it together. And thank you also, super thanks and coffee gratitude. I am really, really grateful. I am putting it toward a computer, which I've already started shopping for it. So thank you for that. And thank you for your gifted channel memberships. If you got a gifted membership, let me know. So Jody says, thank you. Jack says, thank you. So be on the lookout. Bye, Top Cat. Bye, Mike. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.